But I want us to look at how do we overcome financial inclusion or exclusion, so to speak, for women. And to help us once again to engage on this topic, I want to invite my wonderful friend, the CEO and the president of Vital Voices Global Partnership, Alyse Nelson, to engage on how we overcome financial barriers through education. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause once again. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be back with you. So back in 2006, The Economist magazine released a headline that caught my attention. It said, "Forget China, forget India, forget the internet. It will be women that are the economic drivers, the economic force in the next 20 years. Now, that was followed by research that came out from McKinsey & Company and others that showed that by just getting women's economic empowerment, our access, our opportunities, legal barriers removed to the level of men, giving us the same opportunities as men in terms of economic opportunities, that the world would gain $28 trillion. $28 trillion. We think about what the world could do with that kind of money. But I think one of the things that I have certainly seen, and this panel will explore, is the fact that when women gain money, it's not just they're an economic force. Women are a force that really brings greater transformation to society. So this panel is not just about why women ought to have more money and economic opportunity. It's about how it'll also make the world a better place. So let me get started by introducing our panel. Sitting next to me here is Sibylle Maire. She is the executive director of Bayard. Welcome.
Hello.
Next to her is Claudia Segre. She is the president of Global Thinking Foundation. Welcome.
Hi.
Oluwatosin Olaseinde is, Olaseinde, sorry, is the founder and CEO of Money Africa. And finally, Marie Degrand-Guillaud is deputy CEO of Nickel BNPP. So welcome to each of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Sibylle, I want to start with you because you've had a really impressive corporate career, achieved more than I think you probably even maybe thought possible. But you're now on a mission. You're on a mission because you want to see women ask for money, you want to see them understand money, to have that full economic power. Talk a little bit about your efforts to do that.
Hello, everybody. Very nice to see you all. Thank you for saying my name so well. Sibylle, very impressed. So we have a bit of a problem here. Let's share it with you. So we know that money matters, but money is still a taboo, at least in France, but I'm not sure it's only in France. We don't talk about money. It's still very rude in many countries to talk about money. We don't talk about money at school. We don't talk about money at the office enough. Do we talk about money really within our families? With your partner? Do you really talk about money? Not so sure about that. So there is an inequality, and I would like to give you two anecdotes. We said it before I start with the anecdotes. It's obviously there is obviously a historical reason. At least in France, and we all know that, the access to a bank account independent for women actually happened in 1965. I can see that. You all know that. Okay, but that's a first matter. So there is a historical reason, and there are also cultural reasons. Two anecdotes. At Vive Media, it's written with an S at the end, we did a survey to ask people, we don't have time here, but if I would ask if you have any kids, do you actually give the same amount of pocket money to your son and your daughter? Everybody would say, Yes, of course, I do. Okay, we did a survey through 3,000 families, and actually there is a difference of 4 euros between girls and boys under the age of 10, up to 15 euros at the age of 18. Wow. First. Second number and second anecdotes I would like to share with you. The importance of money is because at the end of your life, when you retire, 30% of women retiring in France now, but not only in France from the survey I saw from the Women's Forum, but through all Europe, earn less 890 euros per month. 30% of women going to retirement earn less than 890 euros. We all know the reasons. So, whether inequality, career breaks, choice of profession, increase in single-parent families. So that's a big problem. We need to work on that. That's the main reason we need to ask for money. And even more, and I will stop there, because not only we earn less, but we live longer, 9 years longer.
Thank you, thank you. You know, I think, when we first started talking, I thought about a study and then a book that I read that was called Women Don't Ask. And it was so fascinating to me, and I've seen this play out in my organization, where women come into the job market, first job, take what they're given in terms of the salary and the benefits, don't negotiate, don't ask. Men, more often than not, will negotiate, will ask for more. And that has a huge impact over time. So even those decisions we make very young are critically important. So obviously educating girls is very important, and getting them used to having the same amount of money as men, not setting these, as you say, cultural barriers. Oluwatosin, I want to bring you into this conversation. You're a serial investor, very successful businesswoman, but more recently started investing, and then wanted to demystify investing, which I think is so powerful through Money Africa. Talk about that process and why you feel it's so important to demystify the process of investing and get more women, particularly women in Africa, investing.
So I got my first job at the age of 20. I was working in Johannesburg, South Africa, before I moved back to Nigeria. And for the first 5 years of my career, I was living from hand to mouth. Now, for a bit of context, I was working as a senior auditor at an accounting firm. So I earned enough. I could have invested. Now, my only car, which was in Johannesburg, I wanted to, sell it and move back to Nigeria when I was coming back. But I did not have an insurance cover on it, and it got stolen. That meant that I could not, reclaim that insurance cover. So moving back to Nigeria, I had to start from scratch and started teaching myself about money. And once I started the journey, I picked up the phone and I called my friends. It was a similar problem. They were renting an apartment, they were traveling once a year, they were eating good food, and that was it. So they had nothing they were saving or investing for in the future. And I said, this is a pattern. Now, many people think that this is a problem for people that do not earn enough, but many people earning enough are experiencing the same challenges. Imagine you walking towards retirement with nothing to show for it, just because you were eating with both hands. So I started teaching myself. I worked as a senior financial analyst with Bloomberg TV Africa. I worked with British American Tobacco as a commercial finance manager, and then I launched Money Africa. Money Africa is on a mission to champion financial literacy in Africa. We've reached over 1 million people online and offline, and we're educating them about money and how money works. Now, 70% of our community members are women, but it was not intentional. When I set out teaching people about money, the women started gravitating towards me. Oh my gosh, Tosin, I have similar problems. What can I do? I have my first baby. How do I start investing? And we started making it a movement. We want to make money cool again. I want to go for lunch. I want to talk about the stock market. I want to go to dinner. I want to talk about the bonds. I want the conversation about money to be like the blog, like the gossip blogs. Make it easy, make it fun, and stop and demystify the entire thing. Now, I noticed that many women were not going into it because they thought it was hard, it was complex. I'm like, nonsense, they're lying to you. They want you to think it's complex because they don't want you in it. So we want to break it apart. What is the mystery about this thing? And let us just dismantle it, and that's the mission that we're currently on.
Fantastic. Wow. I'm sure everyone is logging in right now to Money Africa. Claudia, I want to bring you in here. You're really at the nexus of the private sector, geopolitics. Something that Sibylle alluded to is this idea that we're talking about historical challenges, we're talking about cultural challenges, right? The way that the laws and history has been, but also the way culture has followed, what we've taught women and girls in every country around the world about money, why it is that so many women flock to you. How do we shift that? How do we change that taboo? And what are we up against? Give us that larger context.
But I think that the way the public sector and private sector, as you mentioned, are involved and are working for an empowerment from the financial point of view for women is very important for a country like Italy, for example, that was showing such a huge number of gender gaps, because we have a salary gap into the private sector of more than 20%. And again, as was mentioned by Sibylle, at the end, the pension gap is 31%. If you have to face your long-term strategy 9 years more, you have to manage your own money in order to be sufficient out from the risk to be a new poor woman. That's the main problem, particularly for the medium class. And on the other hand, out from all the efforts put in place by the public sector with a financial education committee, with many initiatives comes from the no-profit sector, sometimes it's not enough when there is not any financial culture. Because if in France was 1965, in Italy, unfortunately, was 1975. So if you think about that, the banking system started in the 18th century, I think that the men have more than 1.5 centuries to improve themselves into managing money, not for us. And the way now many feminists, they are fighting against the patriarchal matter, I think that's the reality is that this kind of culture, not to give the opportunity to the women to be independent financially. For example, we produce some spot into regarding the financial independence and the importance of financial independence coming from the Istanbul Convention also matter. And the answer and the comment that we have seen in YouTube is you, with your willingness of economic independence, you are that women, because the power is our power, it's not your power. And within this power, never, never be yours. And so there are such a kind of frightened comments in 2023 against the right to be independent that sometimes someone forget that, as was mentioned again in the Istanbul Convention, the women's rights are human rights, and the way to be autodeterminated and to be independent, it's not only an engine for the development of countries, so to freely participate from the social point of view, the economic point of view, but also is the way to co-create into the families the opportunity to talk about and to improve this financial culture in order not to have such a kind of dysfunctional behavior that can be repeated in the new generation if we cannot stop this kind of way to see the women outside from the financial participation.
Thank you, thank you. Marie, I want to bring you in here. So you work in the area of fintech, and I believe so much that technology has a means to simplify our lives, complicated in some ways, but simplify our lives, cut through the bureaucracy. And that's what you're doing with Nickel. Can you talk about that and how it's been a powerful tool for everyone, but particularly for women?
Yes, sure. Indeed, I am the one working in the financial industry here with BNP Paribas and Nickel, and we are part of the problem, but we are also part of the solution. And it's something that we are very conscious of. We really want to solve part of the problem that is in our hand. And when you look at women, it's frightening, the fact that that the women are 25% less confident towards their financial capabilities versus men. And we say, okay, how can we solve it? And at Nickel, so we are a fintech, 9 years old, very, very fast growing. We have 3.5 million clients in Europe. We are in 5 countries already. We say, okay, how can we simplify everything about the day-to-day budget? And so we put simple and transparent solutions to ease the access to a current account. So you can open a current account in 5 minutes in a local point of sale, and you will have very easy way of handling your day-to-day budget. It's something very powerful because we don't use complex words. We think that actually money is quite easy to understand, as you said. We don't use complex documentations or complex processes, and it's making it much simpler for everyone to open an account. We also are in real time, so for example, you see all the movement on your account or you see them exactly when they happen. So it's giving you power because you have more information, you know where you stand in terms of budget. And we also enrich those transactions information with, for example, the logo of the merchant or the real name of the merchant. And at the end, especially for women, because we are here to speak about women, we did an impact study. We say, okay, we provide a current account, that's good. We do it differently, that's good. But what do we really change in the life of our clients? And we say, we did an impact study, and 96% of our women clients are telling us that they feel less stress in their day-to-day life, they feel empowered, and they feel more powerful just because they understand and they're secured with their money having their current account with us. So it's something very strong that we can do as a financial institution, and we are very proud of it, and we will continue doing it at a very broader scale, let's say.
Wonderful. So, Sibylle, I want to come back to you. So we know that, as you said, women live longer, quite a bit longer than men. We know that as the baby boomer generation gets older and men die earlier than women, there will be a transfer of wealth. And companies are starting to understand this. That research that McKinsey did and that others have done, companies are looking at this. How do we take advantage of, we as women, thinking about our economic empowerment, how do we take advantage of how companies are seeing the economic power of women? And should they be providing more education?
Good question. Let me say one thing first. If you look at the demographic, let's focus on France. The employment rate in France is around 70%. And the only reason why we are maintaining this rate, which is lower than European countries, is the fact that women are entering the work market. They're the solutions, and they're going to be more and more. So that's first the reason. Second, the companies are understanding that there are different movements happening within their companies. More women, they take more part-time job, and there is also a new movement happening, but we don't have time to talk about it, is the number of caregivers. In the US today, there is a big thing happening between choosing breadwinning and caregiving. Parenting will be not anymore only for your kids, but also for your parents. So on the top of it, so companies are focusing on, I think, like BNP is doing and Nickel is doing, from what I know, is actually educating in the number of training programs they are giving within companies. Why don't we say that actually financial education should be a must? A must for everybody. Why? Because we are surrounded by very clever women, from what I can see here today. But we know that we should look at it more. we should don't delegate, but actually do it by ourselves. But we are lacking one thing, and we're making the wrong choice all the time. Time. We are missing time. And what we do is that between our couples, we actually choose to delegate to our partner. I will be in charge of the kids, you take in charge of the finance thing. That should not happen anymore. But to push yourself and see yourself capable of actually talk about finance is very complicated. First, no one understands finance. Who are they? Why are there so many? What do they do? First, it's an entire new world that should be explained, because at the end of the day, it's not that complicated. It seems complicated, but it's not so complicated. That's the first thing. To whom, what are we talking about? Second, the products. Who understood all the products? Oh, no, honestly. Honestly. They give names they don't even understand themselves. So I'm like, okay, there is a shock here that we need a simplification of everything before we start to actually see ourselves. So we need education for that. At Aviv Media, we are not saying what you should do, what you must do. Is that, okay, it's a tough job, but you're a tough cookie, and we can do it together. So we are going to provide you with content that actually I understand, so believe me, you can understand it first, because we are making the world more simple. It's like, keep it simple, okay?
Yeah. I want to bring you in again because we were talking backstage, Oluwatosin, about a generational shift. I'm sorry, I have to bring this up because it is sort of funny, but you know, pre-COVID, there was so much talk among Gen Z and millennials of be the girl boss, be in charge, make your money. And now there's a shift to what has, millions upon millions of followers and views on TikTok of lazy girl job. Is this just a random TikTok thing that we should ignore? Is it a larger trend? What are you seeing when you're working with young women? You know, are they saying, I don't care about making money, I want to have a balanced life? What are you seeing?
I'm seeing them saying, you know what, we want some balance. I'm seeing them saying we want to work, but we also want an after-work life. They want in balance, and I think that's fair, to be honest. They want some balance, yeah.
And would you say that's true? Is that what you're seeing, you know, at Nickel in particular, when you think about inclusion, right? And how important it is, but also what the barriers are to financial inclusion, particularly to younger generations and more disenfranchised communities?
Yeah, I definitely think that we all have the same needs and that we could simplify everything. I totally agree with what has been said. And towards financial inclusion, it's very key to understand that. For example, at Nickel, we welcome everyone the same way. So of course, we are a great product for someone that is very poor or very vulnerable in one moment in his life, and we are very proud of welcoming them the way they are. But we are the best product for everyone, for all of you, for example. You could subscribe. But it's just a way of understanding that I think in terms of managing financials, you really need something very simple, and we can simplify everything. And women are more exposed to financial insecurity somehow, because they were more likely to be single parents than men. They are more likely to have part-time jobs. So they are more women or below the poverty line. And it's very important that all those groups are welcome and have the right financial services somehow. And to do that, we all, the industry and the players in the room, have to be conscious of their role. And I totally agree about what you've just said. We can simplify, and we should be simplifying it.
So you've talked, Claudia, about money for women as emotional currency. What do you mean by that?
You know, the fact that I was mentioned, money is cool, so it's not a problem or something that have to block your action and the way to be aware of your role from the social point of view and also into the job market. And so the way is possible to move ahead in a way to be close to the money and to manage on that is also to improve the mentorship activities, to support the efforts put in place by many companies in terms of diversity and inclusion matter, to simplify also the hiring of women, offering the opportunity of career, and so to weigh confident with the use and the manage of their money. And so we have to do this into the families, to the schools, and also in companies that are able to listen about the problems of women and to include in them, for example, the Marie-Pierre-Rixen law here in French added the way to pay the salary into the banking account of the woman that is working for a specific company. That is not the same in Italy, for example. This is a simple way to see the women manage on their own, because, for example, in Italy, 20% of women, they don't have their personal account for the reason that we already explained. And that's the main problem. So at the same time, they are not confident into managing the budget of the family, more than 33%. So there is a problem of skills, economic, financial skills that are not so hard, but are very interesting to empower yourself and to change your life and to take the responsibility, the social responsibility of your economic path, because it is the path of your economic path, the path of your children, of your family, but first of all is the way to be freely and independent. And this need some laws, application of the international treaty, Istanbul Convention, the Convention 190 of the International Labour Organization that mention the 4 types of violence, such as economic violence, psychological violence, that companies need to fight in order to improve the economic independence, not to be submitted to such a kind of violence that deprive women for their own resources and their own independence.
Thank you. So we have only a few minutes left, and we've talked sort of broad scale with these extraordinary experts. We've got a lot of powerful women in this room, but I have no doubt that the vast majority of us, I put myself in that camp, have sat here listening to these women with great expertise and felt, oof, I need to be doing more. I need to be doing more to take responsibility and feel more empowered with my investing, with my wealth. What more should I be doing? So I want to do a very quick lightning round with each of these women. If you could give one piece of advice to every single woman in here, what is the one thing that each of us could do to be more in charge of our money? Because one of the things that we don't talk about, when we talk about women's empowerment, we're talking about, and women's economic empowerment, we're talking about getting women above the poverty line. What we don't talk about is, what would be the impact of the world if we had more women, in the higher areas, in the areas where they could be giving back, right? And they could have stronger philanthropic power, stronger purchasing power, stronger power to make greater decisions in hiring, right? Shaping the world, right? With more economic power. Why are we not celebrating as feminists women who break through, or at least those who could, and be the future, Steve Jobs or, Bill Gates, or I hate to use tech bros, but, men who have made billions of dollars. We need to be celebrating those women who are making billions of dollars as a women's empowerment and feminist issue. So we're just going to do lightning round. What is one thing we can do to all be more in charge of our financial future?
I would say ask. Dare to ask. When you don't know, you ask someone who knows. There is actually at least one person around you can help you. And sorry to finish with that, because we don't have time to talk about that, but the biggest inequality, money-wise, are within families. doing succession. So talk about it within your families. Talk about it. There is someone at the office. There is someone around your friends who knows better. Just ask. It's a little gap, but it's a lot. You will see it's difficult, but not that difficult.
Thank you. Claudia.
Myself?
Yes.
Okay, great. So your mindset forms 80% of your personal finance journey. I strongly recommend the book called Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's a must read. Number 2, just by investing $150 on a monthly basis, compounding at 10% per annum, you're going to walk towards retirement with more than $500,000. So start today. It could be $10, $20, $50, whatever you can do, start. So your biggest asset is time, and the earlier you start, the better. Thank you.
Nice. Claudia.
So taking care of your financial empowerment and be committed to that is the way to be free. So the freedom to live, the freedom to make decisions, the freedom to be in or out of certain situation and out from toxic relation is your freedom. The freedom to live financially empowered.
Thank you. And finally, Marie, last word.
Yeah, I guess you want us to become Bill Gates, so it's quite of a role model very far. But if it's about money, I would say invest. I think that women are very strong in investing their time. They really know how to adjust every second of their life to do something very effective. So just use this skill in finance and invest in the right enterprises or product that you believe will build a better future.
Thank you. Thank you for the shot in the arm and the great advice. Thank you all.